Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about buying a home. Whether you're a first-time buyer or you've done this before, hopefully I can give you some tips and tricks to make the process even easier. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Karen Packard. I own Karen Packard Real Estate in Sterling, Massachusetts. A little bit about me before we get started. I started in real estate in 2013. I got my broker's license in 2017, and I worked for a couple of national companies. I worked for a local company, and I started my own brokerage, Karen Packard Real Estate, in 2020. I have been the top producer in my town for years, and I have been a top producer in Central Mass for about 10 years now. I also earned my negotiation certificate. I earned my staging certification. I am a Massachusetts licensed real estate instructor. So I teach selling classes, buying classes, investor classes. I even teach the real estate licensing classes to people who are looking to get into the industry. So you can talk to me about that if you're interested. But in addition to that, my husband and I have done rentals, we have done flips, we've done commercial property, investments, all kinds of stuff. So when it comes to real estate, I have done it all, and I'm going to be able to help you get started in your buying process. I actually put this together this morning because I had an interesting thing come up right at breakfast. I had a buyer who I haven't had a consultation with yet. She reached out to me the other day and said that she is looking to buy a house, and we were setting up a time to meet. But something came on the market last night that she is in love with, and she wanted to see it today. So she texted me this morning and she said, I already went through the national website that I searched through houses, and there was a button that said click to make an appointment. So I've made us an appointment, and we can meet there later today, and you can show me the property. And so I kind of laughed at her and said, you actually made an appointment with another agent. It's not that clear, but when you use those national sites and you click make an appointment, it is going to an agent that has paid to advertise on that site for leads. It's not actually the listing agent, and it's not making an appointment for me, for her agent to show her. It's a little misleading. So she said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't understand. I said, of course you didn't understand. We haven't sat down for a consultation. I haven't had a chance to explain all this to you yet. But it made me realize that there's a lot of people out there that don't understand how this works. And there's a lot of websites that kind of are vague on purpose so that you might make an appointment through them or you might search through them. So I wanted to put together this seminar as just a brief overview. You really should sit down with an agent and go through a buyer consultation so you get all of the information you need when you're buying a house. But this will give you a little bit to get started. So the first step really is picking your buyer's agent. And in real estate agents can work for either the seller or the buyer or both in some cases. But most cases, they're going to have a selling agent and a buyer's agent. And when you're working with a buyer's agent, they are in charge of protecting you. They have your best interest. They are not allowed to say certain things to the listing or to the listing agent about you, about your finances, about your personal history, about anything like that. So you want someone that is there to protect you. Your agent will also help you find properties, whether they are online or whether they are off-market properties and maybe haven't been listed yet. They will negotiate the offer price for you. They will set up all the contracts. They will make sure all the dates are met. They will make sure your deposit is protected. We go to the home inspection with you, and I make sure that you know what's important, what's something that we should be concerned about, what we can negotiate for repairs or credits, and what we can't. And then we work directly with your attorney and your lender to make sure that everybody's getting all the paperwork, we're all on the same page, everything's getting done on time, again, protecting your deposit and making sure that we get to the closing table. So choosing an agent is extremely important. One of the things I hear all the time in real estate is I have a friend or a family member or a colleague or a neighbor or someone I know that just got into real estate, and you either feel guilty not using them or they've asked you to hire them so you could help them out and get them started. And while I appreciate loyalty and I completely understand the guilt, I do think this is a major financial investment that you're making, and doing something as a favor is probably not in your best interest. If they don't have any experience and they're working with a mentor or an experienced agent that they're partnering with, it might work out fine. But this is an industry where you don't get good at it and you don't get to a level of solving problems for your clients without having a lot of experience. You just don't know what you don't know. The other thing I think is really important is making sure that they're full-time. And by this, I don't mean that they have to be 9 to 5 in the office every day and this is all they ever do. What I mean is that the people that do it weekends only or seasonally, or they work multiple shifts at another job and they don't communicate with you for days at a time, probably is not a good agent to hire. Right now in the industry, houses are selling in the first 48 hours. And if your agent is unavailable to get you in the house and to get an offer written before deadline, you may lose your dream house just because of your agent's schedule. So that's another thing to factor in when you're interviewing agents. The third thing is having a local expert. So when you get a license in Massachusetts, you're licensed to sell anywhere in the whole state. But you don't know every town. There's too many areas of the state. There's too many things that you just don't know. I should not be selling houses on the Cape. I should not be on the North Shore. I don't go to the Berkshires. I only stay in Central Mass. I grew up in Central Mass. I raised my kids here. I own a house here. I sell real estate here. This is my area. This is where I know. So if I go outside the area, I'm not going to know where are the schools? Where are the grocery stores? How close is it to the highways? What are we looking at for commuter access? Are there trains in the area? Is there public transportation? What does my taxes cover? What kind of associations are here? Is there covenants for my neighborhoods? Sterling has a town lake. Holden has a town pool. Is there memberships that I need to join in order to get access to those? Other things like, in West Boylston, you have to pay for bags for trash. In Sterling, it's included with our taxes. In Princeton, the next town over, you have to pay for it privately. So when you're working in a local area that you're an expert, you can answer all of your buyers' questions. And that can get extremely important when they're choosing what community they want to raise their family in. So hiring a local agent, an experienced agent, and someone that is available almost full time to show you houses and write contracts and talk to the listing agents and get offers accepted on your time schedule is extremely important. The next step after hiring an agent is choosing a lender. So there are a lot of differences when it comes to getting a lender. There are mortgage brokers and there are banks, and there are pros and cons to both. This is a much longer conversation than this little presentation is going to allow. But basically on that, you want to make sure that they're going to be available on the weekend and on the nighttime, because we don't do real estate 9 to 5. Real estate is 24/7. And I need a lender that's going to be available to update a letter or answer questions on the weekend when we're submitting offers. The other thing is internet banks. There are a lot of people that like to go through those internet banks. They can enter the information online and they can spit out a letter immediately, and it's quick and it's convenient and it's easy. But in the real estate industry, sometimes it can be a little bit difficult as a listing agent to get a hold of those internet banks, to get things updated, to vet the information that they're giving me. So I always like to work with a local bank. If I have to, I can drive down there, I can hound them, I can walk into his office if I need to talk to him that day. But choosing a lender is really important, and you should talk to your real estate agent about recommendations. As if any industry, there are good ones and there are bad ones, and your real estate agent usually will be able to recommend some good lenders for you. Once you've chosen a lender, they're going to ask you for a lot of financial information. This is going to help them qualify you for the loan. And there are 3 different types of letters that we see often in real estate. The first is the pre-qualification letter. This is the most simple, and this is what a lot of the internet lenders will do. And you type in, this is what I make for money, and assuming that that's what I'm being honest about and that's what you need to know, here is what I'm qualified for, and X amount. Then there's the pre-approval letter. This goes a little bit further. So usually it will say right in the letter, we have verified their credit, we've verified their income, their assets, their employment, and we have chosen to pre-qualify or pre-approve them for a certain amount. But it's a little bit more secure than a pre-qualification because they've actually looked through more financial information than the internet banks have. Then the last one's a pre-commitment. And this one is not as common. Pre-approval is the most common and usually very standard in our industry. But a pre-commitment letter means that not only have they verified all of your tax refunds and your employment history and your credit scores and everything, but they have sent all of that information over to underwriting. And basically, the underwriters have said, as long as the house qualifies, we are comfortable with this borrower and we are already pre-committed to loaning them this money. So they still need to choose a house and they still need to get the appraisal done, but they have already gone through all of the steps to qualify the actual borrower. So we are so much closer to the commitment and they're so much further along in the process. It's a lot more secure type of letter to get. So on the listing side, if I have 3 offers and they're all very similar, and one has a pre-qualification letter and one has a pre-approval letter and the third one has a pre-commitment letter, all things being equal, the pre-commitment letter is a little bit more secure for the sellers to choose. So if you want to set yourself up in the offer situation of having the best option of the seller choosing your offer, a pre-commitment letter is something you should talk to your lender about. So the lender has an entirely different role in this scenario than the real estate agent. So if you're hiring me to be your buyer's agent, I'm helping you find properties. I'm in charge of doing all the offer contracts and making sure all the dates are covered, making sure that we get you through the home inspection, and I do communicate with the lender. But the lender is going to talk to you about what type of loan that you qualify for, whether it's your credit or your income or the area that you're buying in. There's conventional loans and FHA loans and VA loans, and there's different requirements for all of them. So the lender's going to go through all that with you. They're also going to help you set a budget. What are you comfortable paying monthly? So they will go through what the interest is, what the principal is, what the escrow amounts are going to be for taxes on the houses that you're looking at. So they're going to set the budget with you and make sure that you're comfortable with that so that we're not buying you a house that you won't be able to pay for. They're also going to tell you what you can expect for closing costs. So there are fees to starting this process, and the lender is going to help you figure out what the fees are, in addition to how much money you're going to have to bring for a down payment. So there's always a down payment amount unless you have a 0% down payment, and that needs to be factored in as well, and make sure you have the cash on hand to do that. So the lender will take care of most of the financial stuff. So again, choosing a lender is really important, and making sure you're on the same page with all of your budget and your amounts and your credit and your income is really key to making sure that you have the best options. Now the fun part. So you have your lender letter. We know what you're approved for. We know what you're comfortable paying. Now we get to shop. So once you call me up and you say, I'm good, here's my letter, here's what I qualify for, we're going to put together a list. So there is a must-have list and there is a wish list. And every buyer should really think about this carefully. So how many bedrooms do you need versus how many do you want? How many bathrooms? How many square feet do you want in the house? What size yard do you want? What towns do you want? What location? Do you need a garage or do you just want a garage? Are you having someone live with you that you need an in-law or an extra suite? Do you need a pool? Do you want a pool? Do you not want a pool? These are all questions that we're going to answer together so that we can fine-tune your search and find you your dream house. Okay, this is one of my most important messages for you. And this is the reason why it sparked me doing this whole thing today. There are things in real estate that buyers don't understand. One of them is called procuring cause. So as real estate agents, we work on commission. We only get paid if you find a house that you love and that we secure the contract for you and you get to move in. Procuring cause means that the real estate agent that helped you find that house is the one that's going to get paid. So if you go onto a national website and you click make an appointment with an agent who's paid to be on there for leads, and they show you the house, you may very well be cutting your buyer's agent out of the deal. They may not be able to represent you. You might be locked into working with that agent that you've never met, that you just click the button on the internet. So be really, really careful about that. The other thing is open houses. So you are welcome to go to open houses. And sometimes in the early stages of looking, that's a great option because you don't want to bother your real estate agent. When you sign in, you should sign in saying, I am working with Karen Packard from Karen Packard Real Estate, so that the listing agent that's standing at that open house understands that you already are represented and that if there's anything that they want to communicate, they should communicate through your agent. So the other thing to keep in mind is that when you're going to open houses, the agent that is representing the house is most likely the listing agent, not always, but most likely the listing agent, and they represent the seller. So anything that you tell them, they are obligated to tell the seller. So be very careful what you're sharing at an open house because they are trying to get information out of you that's going to help them choose the best offer. And they might be asking you questions that you shouldn't be answering. So just be careful when you're talking to listing agents. Know that they work for the seller. It is perfectly fine to go to an open house, but you should mention your buyer's agent when you're there. You should always schedule showings through your buyer's agent. I can't tell you the amount of times I get people texting me, I didn't want to bother you, so I just called the listing agent for this question. Or I can go in with the listing agent later today if that's a problem for you. It is my job, if I am your buyer's agent, to show you those houses. You are not bothering me. This is how it works. This is how I get paid. This is the business that I'm in. So if you are my buyer, you should be calling me when you have questions, and I will make sure the answers get to you. I will make sure that we get the showing scheduled, and I will make sure that you're not saying something to the listing agent that you shouldn't be saying. Here's a couple more tips I just wanted to go over with you. So there are different terms that we use in real estate. On-market properties means that they are on the MLS or they are listed publicly, looking for offers, looking to sell their house. Off-market properties means they're not on the market, they're not in the MLS, they're not in these real estate websites. They may be getting ready to sell, and it may be something that's, we often say we'll sell an off-market property because they just haven't gotten listed yet, but it is not actively being shown to other people. Contingent is what we do after there's an offer accepted, if there are still some contingencies that were written into that offer that we haven't cleared through yet. The most common is going to be the home inspection. So if a real estate agent is the listing agent and they mark it contingent, it means that we have an offer, but it is going through the process of clearing the contingencies. There are some national websites that do not update the listing when this happens. So it looks like the listing is still available, but in reality, they have accepted an offer. They may consider backup offers, but they are under contract with someone at this point. So some of those national websites that don't change the listing status, it's a little bit misleading because I have people calling me saying, I want to see 123 Main Street. Well, they already have an offer accepted. We might be able to show it for a backup offer, but you have to know that they are already working with somebody to get to the closing. Under agreement means that most of the contingencies have been cleared and we're just waiting for final approval or the final date. So that means that we are no longer showing the property, we are under contract with someone, and we are moving forward to closing. Pre-foreclosure is another one that I love to get calls on. So this usually means that you have looked at one of those sites and you are searching on a national site that likes you to go and check all the information, and they have popped up a pre-foreclosure. That does not mean the bank is foreclosing on that house. That usually means that they are behind on their mortgage payment. It may be only slightly behind, and they're going to get caught up, and it's never going on the market. But I'll get people to call and say, hey, this one's about to be foreclosed on. I really want to get in there and see it. It does not mean it's ever getting foreclosed on. So again, it's a gimmick to get you to go back to these sites and be checking, because these sites get paid for the amount of views they have. So they are masterminds at getting you to come back and keep checking all this information. Foreclosures, on the other hand, or bank owned, same thing, but sometimes listed differently, are when the bank has taken the property because they have stopped paying the mortgage and that the bank now owns the property and is trying to sell it. So sometimes that means that it is a reduced price. It may be winterized. There may be some repairs. There may be some things the bank isn't willing to do, but you might be able to get a deal on the house in some cases. So bank owned and foreclosure is very similar. Short sale is another term that you'll see. This means that the person bought their house and owes more money on the mortgage than what the current market will allow them to sell it for. So if they sell the house, they're actually going to still have a mortgage payment that can't get cleared by what the price is that they get paid. So they ask the bank to forgive that little bit of debt. So if they bought a house for $300,000 and they mortgaged $280,000, and the current market says that you can only sell it for $260,000, but they have a $280,000 mortgage, they would still have $20,000 they have to pay off, even if they sold it at the $260,000 that the value is right now. So a short sale is the seller is working with the bank to sell it at the best price they can, but the bank is agreeing that they will probably forgive that little bit of debt and allow you to short sell it. So those are those terms. This is what you'll often see in some of the listings, and feel free to call your agent if you have any other terms that you come across. We're happy to explain any of them to you. So this slide is just a little bit about the process and the timeline that we have when we're doing a house sale. First, you're going to choose your agent. You're going to pick your lender. You're going to get approved for the pre-approval letter or the pre-commitment letter like I recommended. Then we're going to start shopping for houses. Once you find your dream house, we are going to write up an offer. That offer is going to include what you're willing to pay for it, how quickly you can close on it, what type of loan you have, what type of down payment you have, and any contingencies that we have to put in that are specific to you. So if the seller accepts your offer, we move forward to the next stage. After the offer is accepted, home inspection is typically the next stage. This is probably one of the most important parts of the home sale transaction. So you are going to hire an inspector that is licensed in the state of Massachusetts, and your realtor can usually recommend good ones. So if you need a recommendation, feel free to ask your realtor. But this is a 2, 3, sometimes a 4 or 5 hour inspection, depending on how big the house is. And they are going to go through the house in detail. So you will know everything that you can about the house. You can ask any questions to your realtor, to your inspector. We will all be there for that time period. You can do any measurements that you need to do. But assuming everything goes well with the home inspection and that you're happy moving forward, the next step is the appraisal. So if you have a loan, the bank is most likely going to send out an appraiser to assess the house value. So the bank's job in this is to make sure that they are not going to loan you money for a house that they don't feel is worth it. Because if you foreclose and they have to take ownership of the house, they don't want to lose money if they have to resell it. So they're going to send out someone to make sure that it's worth what we're paying for it. That's the next step. During this time period, your bank is going to want to make sure that your credit hasn't changed and your income hasn't changed. So if there's anything that's going on financially, you need to be talking to your lender. Do not buy a car. Do not open credit cards. Do not go buy furniture or anything like that during the stage, because it is going to change your debt income ratio and the lender might deny your loan. But assuming all of that goes well and the appraisal comes in fine, they usually give your bank commitment loan letter right after that happens. So that is saying that we have vetted the person, we have vetted the house, we are comfortable approving your loan. Sometimes that's a week, maybe 2 weeks before the closing. It's usually right at the end, but we do get that before the closing. The night before the closing is scheduled, or the morning of, we do what's called the final walkthrough. This is when you meet your buyer's agent at the house. The seller is completely out and the house is empty and ready for you to take ownership. You have a chance to walk through the house one last time before signing papers. This is where we check to make sure that there's no problems with the home. There's no plumbing leaks. There's no major damage that was done while they were moving out. I usually tell people to flush toilets and start sinks and do everything that you need to do, because once you sign papers, you own the house. So there's a whole process to the walkthrough, but we do that the morning of closing. And then you go to the attorneys to sign all the papers. It will be a nice big stack of papers for you to sign. And the good thing is that, the attorney is going to guide you through it. They're going to go through all the paperwork. You're all set there. But once they finish the paperwork, you don't necessarily get the keys. This is a common mistake people don't understand, is that even though you've signed the paperwork, it's not actually yours until the attorney records it at the Registry of Deeds. So if you're signing papers at 9 or 10 a.m., do not plan to have your movers show up at 10:30 a.m. because it may be a couple hours before it's on record, and you won't get the keys to the house until it's on record. So just a note, if you're having friends come over to take down wallpaper like I did when I bought my house, you have to plan for that couple hours in between. There are some important updates that I want to make sure everyone's aware of. So last year, there was a settlement with the National Association of Realtors that changed a little bit of the paperwork and how we do real estate. So one of the things I want to make sure everybody understands is, as part of the settlement, we have to sign a buyer's agent agreement with our clients before we're even allowed to show them a house. So in the past, this was optional. Some agents did it. Some agents did it after you've seen a couple houses, so you have a chance to get to know each other first. But now it is mandatory that we have what we call an exclusive buyer agent contract, which means you're hiring this agent to be your representation. And you have to do that before you see any properties. Now, it could be for a day, a week, a month, a year, whatever you and your agent decide to sign it for. But it is something that is happening. It is nationwide. It is not a choice. So I do have some people call me up and say, hey, this realtor wanted me to sign contracts before I even saw the house. I'm not working with them. That is not the agent's choice. This is mandatory. This is a new law that we have to adhere to. So just be prepared. What I do recommend is that you talk to your agent ahead of time. We usually like to meet with you. If we do a buyer consultation, you and I would sit down. I would show you the contracts. I would explain all the contracts. You don't have to sign them during the consultation, but it gives you a chance to see what you'd be committing to, so that it's not outside the house and saying, hey, we haven't seen a house yet. Here's on the hood of my car. We're going to have to sign these documents before I can unlock the house for you to see, and you feel pressured. So set up a consultation with your buyer's agent. Go through what you're going to have to sign so you make sure you understand and you're both agreeing. And like I said, it can be for whatever timeline you're comfortable with, but this is an important update that just happened that is mandatory. So be prepared to sign some paperwork when you start seeing houses. That's it. That is the basics on what you need to know when you're buying a house. So if you have any questions, my contact information is here. If you are looking to buy in Central Massachusetts and you would like to talk to me or someone who works on my team, feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to help you. And if you have any questions, like I said, my email is right there. Feel free to email me any questions. And if you'd like to set up a buyer consultation, we would be happy to do that as well.